I want to go ask him. It would have been like, Mom, he's my student. I teach the guy. He doesn't know the ABCs of fiqh. What happened to her? She was a very simple woman, subhanAllah, student of Abu Hanifa. And his mom, Abu Hanifa's mom, is like, I want to go ask him my clothes. And I don't know if I can go pray in the masjid tonight. And he used to go home and he used to take his mother with him to the masjid. And that's also a beautiful thing that he would go and take his mother and subhanAllah, it's funny because, the idea, or it's ironic rather, the idea that in the Hanafi madhab, women are not allowed in the masjid. When Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah used to go home every day, and this is narrated in his biographies, and he would take his mother to the masjid every single day, which is a great sign of his humility. And this great mother of his, and I remember the story of her, what happened to her. She was a very simple woman, subhanAllah. She was a woman of taqwa, a woman of great worship, but not a woman of great ilm. And one time, Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he came to take her to the masjid, and she said, I don't know if I can go to the masjid or not. He said, why? He said, because she said to him, al-istihada, that there was some blood that came on my clothes. And I don't know if I can go pray in the masjid tonight. And Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah said, it's okay, don't worry about it. She said, how would you know? Like, it's her son, she's not going to take him seriously, right? Like, oh, really, it's okay, I can go with some blood on my clothes and things of that sort? And he's like, yeah, it's okay, it's fine, it's not menstrual blood, it's not nifas, he's explaining to her the hukum of it, the ruling, it's okay, it's not going to affect your salah or anything like that. She said, I need to go talk to Omar ibn Abi Dhar. Like, I need to go to another person. Now, who is Omar ibn Abi Dhar? Omar ibn Abi Dhar, his nickname was Abu Zur'a. Omar ibn Abi Dhar was, he was a da'iyah, he was a very well-spoken man, a caller to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Great storyteller, qassas. But when you say qassas, when you say storytellers back then, you're referring to a sect sometime. He wasn't part of the sect, because there were people that would make up stories to get money at that time. They were called qassasun. So he wasn't that person, but he was someone that really had a great appeal with the people. And the funniest thing about it, he's a student of Abu Hanifa. And his mom, Abu Hanifa's mom, is like, I want to go ask him. Okay? And I actually had a really hard time finding details on this man. That shows you that how hard it is, how I don't want to say insignificant, but he really wasn't one of the heavyweights of his time. Even finding his name, because it's always Abu Zur'a, finding Umar ibn Abi Dhar, but he's one of the students of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. So can you imagine your mom telling you, I want to go ask him? And Abu Hanifa could have been like, Mom, he's my student, I teach the guy. He doesn't know the ABCs of fiqh, I taught the guy everything that he knows, and so on and so forth. But again, it's the popular speaker versus the credible scholar. It's a great thing when they come together, like the case of Abu Hanifa, but sometimes it's not like that. And it's also very hard to be taken seriously by your household, isn't it? Right? You guys know that when you go home and you start speaking a few words of Arabic, oh, you think because you went to Bayyinah, you're a sheikh now? Right? It's going to happen, right? So Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he said, fine. He said, you want to talk to Umar ibn Abi Dhar? So Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he took his mom to meet Umar ibn Abi Dhar, and she asks him the question, and Umar ibn Abi Dhar is like, let me go ask someone and I'll get back to you. So he goes to Abu Hanifa and he says, your mom came to me and asked me, if a woman gets some blood on her clothes, can she still go to the masjid and pray? So Abu Hanifa rahimahullah said, just tell her the answer is yes, but don't tell her you heard it from me. So he goes back to her and he tells her that, I went and raja'at al-mas'ala, and I went and I studied it, and inshallah ta'ala it's okay and you don't have to worry about it. Right? So this is, subhanAllah, the humility of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah with his own family. And particularly, wallahi, as you become bigger in society, it's harder to tolerate people that disrespect you, right? With Imam Abu Hanifa was the opposite. The more popular and famous he became, the more tolerant he became. SubhanAllah, his tolerance showed towards those that disrespected him. And there are so many incidents like this. One time he was sitting in the masjid, and they were going over masail, going over questions, and he said, Akhta al-Hasan. Al-Hasan made a mistake. Who's Al-Hasan? Al-Hasan al-Basri, rahimahullah, made a mistake. So a man stood up and said, he said with anger, he said, Yabna Zaniya. Called him the son of an adulteress, right? Yabna Zaniya, taqulu akhta al-Hasan. You say that Al-Hasan made a mistake? Who do you think you are? Who are you to Al-Hasan? Said, Wallahi, you're not worth the dirt on the bottom of Al-Hasan's feet. Can you imagine in the middle of Masjid Kufa, and he's speaking to the man sitting on the chair in front of all the students, and he says these words, and Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he puts his head down, and he lets him finish cursing at him and yelling at him. And then the man walks out, And he looks at the students, and the students are waiting for a reaction. And he says, أخطأ الحسن وأصابه ابن مسعود. Meaning he didn't even let him complete the sentence. He said to the students, Al-Hasan made a mistake because Ibn Mas'ud said this. Ibn Mas'ud is a companion, right? Radiallahu anhu, Al-Hasan is a tabi'i. But the man cut off Imam Abu Hanifa in the middle of his sentence because he just said, like, who do you think you are to say Al-Hasan made a mistake? Abu Hanifa did not address the man. He didn't respond. He just kept going and so on and so forth. And there are numerous narrations of this. One time a man called him a zindiq, like he called him a kafir. He called him a disbeliever. And Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he simply responds to me. He said, غَفَرَ اللَّهُ لَكَ هُوَ يَعْلَمُ مِنِّي خِلَافَ مَا تَقُولُ. May Allah forgive you. Allah knows of me other than what you say. He didn't respond to him. He didn't fight with him. He didn't yell at him. Another man once stood up in his lecture. Yeah, you had angry people back then too that used to interrupt lectures. All right? I just had one this past Friday, but that's another story. All right? But, no, I can't tell you because we're on camera. It's going to go. I'll tell you guys when the cameras are off, all right? I can't. Abu Hanifa time, okay? Let's go to Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. One time a man stood up in the middle of his lecture and said, Ittaqillah, fear Allah, fear Allah. And he said, Jazakallahu khairan, may Allah reward you. He said, Wallahi, we're in need of people like you to remind us of the fear of Allah. Like, I really needed you to tell me Ittaqillah. Thank you so much. You know, I needed someone to say Ittaqillah. And one of the most beautiful things, Sahel ibn Muzahim, radiyallahu anhu, rahimahullah, he says that سمعت أبا حنيفة يقول, I heard Abu Hanifa rahimahullah saying, فبشر عبادي الذين يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Az-Zumar, to give the glad tidings to the servants that hear the best of things and they follow the best of it. They hear the words and they follow the best of it. And he said, Abu Hanifa rahimahullah used to constantly make this dua for the people that didn't like him. So he said he made dua for his teachers, made dua for his students. What was the dua he used to make for the people that didn't like him? He used to say, Allahumma man daqa bina sadra. Oh Allah, whoever has his heart constricted because of us, like whoever's hearts have closed towards us, Allahumma man daqa bina sadrahu, fa inna qulubana qad ittasa'at lahu. Said, make our hearts open up to them. When their hearts close towards us, let our hearts open up to them. SubhanAllah, our hearts are full and welcoming towards them. Meaning, don't let it ever become a grudge. You go back to the story of the companion of the Prophet ﷺ who used to sleep with no grudge, and that was enough. That was enough for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guarantee him Jannah. Right? That was without him doing anything. Imagine Abu Hanifa has this quality of removing the grudges from his hearts and actually making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that way. Even in that level. Now another thing that's very hard for a scholar not to do is to backbite, especially your opponents. And Abdullah ibn Mubarak rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, I told Sufyan al-Thawri, so these are great scholars that are speaking, he said, I've never heard Imam Abu Hanifa, he's telling Sufyan al-Thawri about Abu Hanifa, and he's praising him. He's saying, you know what makes him special? He said, I never heard him backbite, not even his fiercest enemies. Like he never spoke ill about his enemies. He never spoke ill about his opponents. Sufyan, rahimahullah, he responded and he said he was too smart to threaten all of the good that he's done by his silly backbiting. Like all the hasanat that he's attained, he was too smart to ruin that all with his backbiting. Right? So he was too smart to do that. Then you find, obviously, with his neighbor even. SubhanAllah, you go through the circles. Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, didn't have a neighbor that was a abid, a worshipper. He had a neighbor that was a drunk young man. And in Kufa, alcohol, it spread, and again, they were just exposed to a lot of things. So this neighbor of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah used to constantly get drunk at night. If they had radios back then, whatever it is, or well, they don't even have radios now, do they? Right? If he could blast his music, that's how he was. Like really loud, rowdy neighbor that used to get drunk every night. And he was a young man and he owed a lot of people money, so he used to borrow money from people. He never paid them back. People would try to tell him, go do this, go do that, and he kept failing at life, right? Teenager, young man. And Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah all night long would hear this young man getting drunk and screaming at himself and screaming, incoherent poetry. Right? So he just starts saying words that don't make sense and so on and so forth. But he used to constantly say, Ada'uni, Ada'uni. Ada'uni, what does ada'uni mean? How would you guys translate that? They misplaced me? That's tarjuma harfiya yani. But it's there. Like they abandoned me. They left me. Who is ada'uni? Like society. Society doesn't care about me. My family doesn't care about me. And we'll see that his family really doesn't care, but no one cares about me. No one loves me. And he says, وَأَيُّ فَتًى أَضَاعُوا. And what a young man they've abandoned. So he starts to praise himself. لِيَوْمِ كَرِيهَةٍ وَسِدَادِ ثَغْرِي. On a day of harsh, battle and so on and so forth. Like they could use me in society. Like I could have done so much, but he blames everyone else. He's not blaming himself. He's saying, أَضَاعُونِ. They all let me go. They all abandoned me. And Allah'uni here, he's referring to his, obviously, his work situation, everything he tries to do, he finds that the doors are closing in his face. And Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah would be listening to him. And subhanAllah, Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, when he hears him do that, just knowing the personality of Abu Hanifa, what do you think he did? Probably made dua for him, right? I mean, Imam Abu Hanifa, he wouldn't respond to him, and subhanAllah, there is no narration. When I'm telling you about the dua part, there is no narration. But if a person like Abu Hanifa, who had that level of tolerance and love for the people, standing up and praying at night, and he's hearing this young man say that people have abandoned me, I'm pretty sure that Imam Abu Hanifa would include him in his dua. But he didn't respond to his screaming out loud. And Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, one night, he realizes that the man's not crying out. So he says, maybe, he drunk himself to sleep tonight. Maybe he's just not, up tonight. Then he noticed the second night. So he went out in the middle of the night and he knocked on his door and the young man didn't answer. The next day, Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah went to Fajr, and Imam Zufar will talk about, he said that Abu Hanifa was troubled. Like he didn't sit for adhkar, he didn't sit for his lectures. He immediately went to the Khalifa, Abu Ja'far al-Mansur. And he said, where is he? Where's my neighbor? What happened to him?